Yo, what's up? It's the one, the only, but what do I know boxing, man? Back at you with another one, man. I had to do this video. I didn't want to do this video. In the words of Roy Jones, I didn't want to have to do this. But you made me do it. So check this out. I didn't want to have to do this video, man, because, bro, it's really irritating on both sides, not just Mayweather, but Canelo fans as well. I'm a fan of both fighters, bro. I wish people would just allow both fighters to be great, but unfortunately, we're at a time where because one face is the face of boxing, the other fan base gets upset. We have this notion where Floyd fans cannot just accept the fact that Canelo is the face of boxing. Canelo fans cannot just accept the fact that Canelo was not green when he fought Floyd. So I wanted to touch on that, man. I wanted to get into that. I wanted to touch bases on that. So without further ado, let's get started.
And I just sit back and think about it at night. You know, when I think about certain fighters, they say, man, well, you know you're facing Canelo. I say, yeah, but can you just tell me 10 world champions that he beat? Just 10. That's all I ask. Just 10. Then I say, you know what? I've been sitting on the top of the throne for 17 years. Every time they get a guy, they build him up. And you know what I do? A big star, but he's never been on pay-per-view unless he was on my undercard. But he's such a big star. He's such a big star, Oscar. And you know, as I sit back here and I think, you know, I go into my mental Rolodex and I just think about certain things like how Oscar gave, you know, you know what? You might well call me the golden boy because I done beat everybody on your whole crew.
Now, this picture pretty much sums up the way Floyd Mayweather feels whenever the spotlight is not on him, okay? How many times have you guys watched Tank Davis and Floyd Mayweather do an interview, and people are asking Tank Davis a question, and Floyd always turns the interview and makes it more so about himself, always makes the whatever they're talking about, he always makes it about him. I've seen that numerous of times. Matter of fact, let me just give you one example.
That sparring session happened. Did you feel you were almost auditioning for Floyd at that point, or do you realize that might catapult you to where you're at now?
I think that, you know, it was make the best of my opportunity. I feel as though that, you know, a lot of people was there that night, and that was my first time in the middle of the jump, so I had to give him my all, what I had.
It was getting it in. But and I had to respect him because he wasn't in no shape. He had a little gut. He ain't got no gut now. But at that particular time, they was getting it in. It was good work.
It was 1,000 people in there. You were sweating just standing there.
A few party was in there.
Yeah,
it was getting it in. So, just them, you know, two young competitors putting on the show. You know, we had the gym on 100 degrees. That's what we do. You know, and you just done an interview. They talked about the gym being hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
How have you seen Tank grow since then?
Shit, bigger, better, stronger, faster. Yeah, so he's grown drastically. I mean, I feel like the puncher power he got puncher power at every weight. You know, I feel like, you know, just like myself, I was able to have that puncher power at 130. Then I had to punch at 135, and then 140, and then at 47, you know, the body started breaking down. Like anything, the body started breaking down. But I still had all my faculties to still find a way to win and beat these guys.
Now, if you look at the video, you can see Tank Davis look like he's a little fed up with Floyd himself. I mean, it's no secret that they have a rocky relationship. But it just seems like Floyd Mayweather, like if the attention is not on Floyd, then it's a problem. And I feel like that's where this whole issue with him and Canelo is coming from. Now that Canelo is the face of boxing, even though Floyd predicted this the same night that he beat Canelo at the post press conference.
My right hand feel good, my left hand feel good, but it's a champion, man. You know, I take my hat off to Canelo. He's a true champion, and a true champion can take a loss and bounce back. And you know, I only got 24 months left, and this is the man.
Floyd right here.
Now, just for the record, this is no hate towards Floyd. As a matter of fact, I'm just, basically going in on what both of the fan bases between Mayweather and Canelo are saying about each other, because right now it seems like we're at a Mayweather-Canelo fan base war. Floyd is in my top 5 favorite fighters. Canelo, I'm a huge fan of, and I'm sure he'll be at least in my top 10 favorite fighters. But the thing is, guys, with the Mayweather fans, it's like Canelo. This is Canelo's time. It's his time right now. The Mayweather fans are so invested in saying, well, Floyd beat Canelo and made it easy. We know that he did. We know that. Floyd reminds us every chance that he gets. How many times have you seen Floyd Mayweather make a post or interview saying that Canelo was one of his easy fights and easiest nights? So we know that. But now it's Canelo's time. However, the Canelo fans, they're kind of contradicting as well. Let's get started. Now, it's no secret that Canelo has a huge fan base, and rightfully so. Golden Boy built Canelo up very well. All right. One of the things that Mayweather himself and his fans will remind you that they put Canelo on quite a few of Mayweather's undercards to help build him up. And Golden Boy has done a great job. And Canelo, who is a great fighter, has done a great job building himself up. However, I think the issue with the Canelo fans is, well, a lot of times they give credit to Canelo for the things that they criticize Floyd Mayweather for doing. Like, it wasn't cool when Floyd Mayweather was doing it, but it's okay now that Canelo's doing it. And then the first thing they say is, well, Floyd did it. Yeah, we know, because you criticized Floyd for doing it. But now you're trying to justify Canelo doing it. Then we have this crazy notion that the Canelo fans like to say he was green when he fought Floyd. What?
Stars of boxing today, tonight in his 8th straight world title bout. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the undefeated
So, my reasoning for posting that video was specifically for those that don't know, that was Canelo's 8th title bout, right? 8th title bout, 8th consecutive title bout, might I add, right? Not only that, Canelo was the unified champion at 154. Not only that, but even besides being a unified champion, he was a champion. All right, now he had just picked up the WBA because he prior to that fight from beating Austin Trout, right? But he was a world champion. So I get confused when people say Canelo was green because, bro, once you become a world champion, all that he's too young. No, when you became a world champion, that means you are the champion of the world in this division with this sanction. So no, you're now held to a world champion standard, which means you are expected to fight the best. So I don't get why people say he's green when he was a world champion. Now, here's a list of guys that Canelo Alvarez fought prior to the Mayweather fight, all right? Before the Mayweather fight, this is who he got. These are the guys that he's fought, okay? So, we have Carlos Baldomir. Now, my whole thing is this. Now, did Canelo fight guys that was in his prime? Not a lot, no. However, he fought guys with experience. That's how he was built. He was built off of beating guys that had had so much more experience than he did. Carlos Baldomir, who was, I mean, obviously he was way past his prime. We all know that. He also shared the ring with Mayweather. Lovemore Endow also shared the ring with Mayweather past his prime. Matthew Hatton, that's the fight that he actually picked up the WBC title from. The younger brother, Ricky Hatton, nobody really considered him a top level. No. Kermit Cintron, who was definitely a veteran, actually was on the path of fighting Mayweather once. I don't even know what happened with that, but that's for another video. Shane Mosley, who obviously we all know who was past his prime, yes. But again, they were building Canelo with fighters that had experience. Shane, who, out of all these guys that he fought before Mayweather, I would say Shane Mosley has had to have the most experience. Okay, he fought Shane Mosley. That was on the undercard of Mayweather versus Cotto. Okay, he fought Josecito Lopez, who actually moved up from 147. But a lot of people don't even know this because a lot of you guys are Johnny Come Latelys. That Canelo Alvarez was actually set to fight Paul Williams. Paul Williams, who then got into a motorcycle accident, which derailed his whole entire career. Then saw Canelo Alvarez was supposed to fight Victor Ortiz because of the accident with Paul Williams. That was out of the window. So they was trying to get a fight with Victor Ortiz, another fighter that was at 147, but they thought it would make for a great fight. But what happened? Victor Ortiz got his jaw broken and got stopped in the 9th round by who? None other than Josecito Lopez. So Lopez, who actually moved up from 140 to fight Victor Ortiz, then in the next fight, moved up to 154 to fight Canelo Alvarez. All right. So not much of experience, not much really take from that fight. But Austin Trout, this is the fight that I want to get into the most. Austin Trout was a tricky slick southpaw, who had just come off of his Miguel Cotto victory. All right. He just beat Miguel Cotto, who at that time, nobody knew who Austin Trout was. Austin Trout was a heavy underdog in that fight. Nobody knew who he was, and came out and beat and beat Miguel Cotto at Madison Square Garden in New York, where Miguel Cotto was actually undefeated at. Now let me break this down for the Speds. Miguel Cotto was not an undefeated fighter, but he had never lost at Madison Square Garden. That was his second home, and Austin Trout came and derailed him. Then Canelo and Austin Trout fought, and then the rest is history. I thought that was a close fight. I didn't like the open scoring, but Canelo got the victory. All right. So Canelo's been in there with some decent guy at the time. Not anybody that I was considered top level, except for Austin Trout. But they built Canelo based off of putting him in the fight, putting him in the ring with guys that had experience. Then they put him in the ring with not only a guy that has some experience, but a top level fighter in Austin Trout. And he beat Austin Trout. What did he do after that? He went for Floyd Mayweather. So another thing that I see a lot of the Canelo fans like to bring up is the whole catch weight at 152, right? Now, it's two sides to that story. Of course, Canelo's team says that Mayweather, they wanted the whole catch weight. Mayweather's team says that Canelo wanted the whole they threw out the idea of having to fight at a catch weight. I personally, if you want to know my personal opinion, I do believe that Mayweather's team wanted the catch weight, because I know at first when that fight first was being talked about, they stated that they wanted Floyd wanted the fight to be at 147, which was actually physically impossible. It's no way at that point Canelo could have made 147. So I personally believe that Mayweather wanted the catch weight at 150, 152 or whatnot. But regardless, Canelo has a history of blowing up in weight, right? His fight against Shane Mosley, he blew up to 167. His fight against Austin Trout, he blew it to 172. And even regardless with the catch weight, with this fight against Mayweather, he blew up to 167 or 166, 165, something like that, right? He was a super middleweight walking into the ring, whereas Mayweather only got up to 154 or something like that. So when you talk about the catch weight, this is kind of where it comes into play at, where the Mayweather fans have an issue. It's like the Canelo fans, when Mayweather did it, Canelo fans had an issue with it, but then Canelo does it and they justify it. As evidence, his fight with Amir Khan, pulling Amir Khan up to 155. Amir Khan has never even fought past 147. Canelo pulling him up to 155. Amir Khan's team wanted a rehydration clause. Canelo wasn't going for that. They said, hell no. Golden Boy and them was like, nah, fuck that. You either take this or you ain't getting no big fight, right? But then the ironic part is when, I know this is out of order, right? Because I know Canelo fought Chavez Jr. before he fought Danny Jacobs, but I'm going to get to Chavez Jr. after this. But the ironic thing is Canelo, Amir Khan's team wanted a rehydration clause with Canelo. They didn't accept that shit, right? But then when Canelo fought Danny Jacobs, they put a rehydration clause on there, right? Now, the Canelo fans then were more so like when Amir Khan was talking about the rehydration clause, the Canelo fans said, hey, he's the A side. You can't do that. It's no rehydration clause. You're not the A side or whatnot, right? Well, rightfully so with Canelo and Floyd. Floyd was the A side. Canelo wasn't the A side. So if you're going to use that to justify Canelo not fighting Amir, not putting a rehydration clause on the Amir Khan fight, then you have to be 100 and understand that same stipulation applies for Canelo when he fought Floyd Mayweather, right? So if Canelo didn't want to put a rehydration clause in with his fight with Amir Khan, but he put a rehydration clause in with his fight against Danny Jacobs. Now, one would say, well, that's contradiction. That's a contradiction. Why would dude, if he didn't, it pretty much shows that Canelo wants some type of advantage in the fight. If he didn't want a rehydration clause with Amir Khan, the smaller guy, but he wants a rehydration clause with Danny Jacobs, the bigger guy, right? So one would say that, that Canelo is basically trying to put himself at an advantage and put his opponent at a disadvantage in every fight, right? But then you would say Danny Jacobs, he was a big middleweight, right? And rightfully so. Danny Jacobs was a big middleweight. So a lot of times I saw the Canelo fans, these are more so the Canelo fans that know boxing a little bit more. They were saying, well, Danny Jacobs, look, he balloons up to this much weight when comes fight night, right? So if it's okay for Canelo to put a rehydration clause on Danny Jacobs, why? Because Danny Jacobs balloons up so much in weight. Then why is it a problem with Mayweather making the fight at a catchweight? Because Canelo balloons up so much. Well, he ballooned up so much in weight even at a young age. Like I said, I want to say he came to the fight weighing like 165 or 166, somewhere along that, in between 165 and 167, the night that he fought Mayweather, right? Now, here's another thing. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., all right? That fight, at the time, Chavez was fighting at 168, right? Canelo made that fight at 164.5. Now, rightfully so, I'm not upset at that. I'm not upset at none of this because I understand the sport of boxing. This is just the shit that we have to deal with, right? So I'm not upset, but it's just the contradictions that go between the Mayweather fans and the Canelo fans. And I'm just really here to put a stop to it all. But rightfully so, Canelo then brought him down. Actually, the fight was supposed to be at 165, but Canelo then, after the contracts were signed, Canelo then made it, he said, nah, let's do it 164.5. He even brought it down to that. So, I mean, and it's like another fighter in Chavez Jr. who balloons up in weight, right? But Canelo didn't move up to the full 168 to fight Chavez Jr. So it's just like, bro, if it's okay for Canelo to do that, then it's like, that's why I say, like, some of the Mayweather fans have an issue. Like, it's okay for Canelo to do things that y'all criticize Mayweather for. And my last subject that I want to get into, as far as the Canelo fans, is this whole Canelo was 23 shit, man. This whole Canelo was 23 bullshit. Listen, You guys gotta stop. You guys gotta stop that. All right. He was 23 when he won. When he became a unified champion at 154. So the whole 23, that's BS. You can't use that as an excuse because once again he was a world champion. All right. He should be held to those standards. All right. So I just got some fights. I didn't feel like getting too deep into this, man, because I want to hurry and get this video out. But these are a list of fighters or a picture of fighters who were young when they won their world titles. All right. Mike Tyson, obviously at in the top you see Mike Tyson, who beat Trevor Berbick, but he was 20 years old when he beat him. All right, when he won his title. Okay, to the left corner you see Muhammad Ali versus Sonny Liston. Muhammad Ali, who was Cassius Clay at the time, he was 22 when he beat Sonny Liston. All right by that you have Wilfred Benitez against Antonio Cervantes. He won, well, I think it was the WBA at the age of 17. You have De La Hoya versus Chavez Sr. De La Hoya was actually 23, the same age as Canelo, and Chavez Sr. was like 34 when he beat Chavez Sr. Okay, then to the far right corner you have Floyd Patterson against Archie Moore. Floyd Patterson was 21 years old when he beat Archie Moore. So it's like those are just the fights that came up. The fights that I just thought about. Like I said, I didn't want to get into it. So you guys got to stop the whole Canelo was 23. That's no excuse, bro. At the end of the day, he was a world champion, a unified champion at the age of 23, bro. He was a unified champion. So you can't use the fact that him being 23. Yes, he got better after he fought Floyd. Obviously, he got better. He learned a lot from that Floyd. You can even see it in his style when he fought after that. So, I mean, it's obvious that he's gotten better. Nobody can deny that. He's not the same fighter that he was when he fought Floyd. However, it's just that, he lost to the better man that night. He was schooled, and Floyd deserves full credit for beating Canelo. All right? It's plain and simple. It's simple as day, man. You guys gotta accept it and then just move on from it, okay? And another thing, another thing that the Canelo fans gotta stop is stop with the damn Floyd wouldn't fight Canelo now because Canelo was the shit. Oh well, of course Floyd wouldn't fight Canelo now because Floyd ain't never weighed in over at no damn 154. Canelo is fighting at 168. Like people really have this dumbass notion that if Floyd came back and fought Canelo right now, Canelo would beat the shit out of Floyd. What weight would they fight at? What weight would they fight at? Because Canelo even said it himself. Eddie Reynoso said himself. Canelo can't even make 160 anymore. So what weight would they fight at? Either fighter would be at a superior disadvantage. Either Floyd would be at a huge disadvantage fighting Canelo at 168, or Canelo would be a fucking skeleton with red hair trying to fight Floyd at 155 or 154. It clearly doesn't make any sense for you guys to continue to talk about that. All right, it doesn't make any sense at all. So just drop it, deaden it. Both fighters are great fighters. Both fighters are definitely Hall of Famers. Top, you can put them top fighters of all time, bro, and let them be that. Let them have their moment. Floyd had his moment. To the Mayweather fans, let it go. All right, Mayweather had his moment. He had his time to shine. Okay, he had his time to shine. He did great, man. Listen, if you look at the top 10 most bought pay-per-views of all time, this is within boxing, MMA, wrestling. Mayweather is has 6 spots on the top 10, bought pay-per-views of all time, right? You know what I'm saying? Mayweather, he's broken numbers. The dude has made I can't even just millions on top of millions. Really generated $1 billion in boxing. Okay, so to the Mayweather fans, let this shit go. Let it go. Mayweather had his time. All right. Mayweather had his time to shine, and it's okay. He did great things that you cannot take away from this man. It's now Canelo's time. It's now Canelo's time to shine, and be okay with that. These are two great fighters going in their separate paths. They fought, and they're going on their own way. To the Canelo fans, bro, just worry about Canelo. All right, focus on Canelo. All right, you don't have to Stop with the whole Canelo was young shit. Canelo was too green. Because if he was so green, why in the hell would 2.2 million people, that was the pay-per-view numbers, why in the hell would 2.2 million people pay $75 or $70+ to watch his green ass fight Mayweather then? If he was too green. He wasn't too green. He was a world champion. That was a legitimate fight, and he legitimately got beat. But it's okay, bro, because he's become even better since then, bro. But stop with the whole he was too green. Stop with the whole if Floyd fought Canelo, now it'd be a different story. Because what fucking weight would they fight at? What weight would they fight at, okay? It makes no sense. Let these fighters be great. Let me know what you think. But hey, what the hell do I know?